All right. Hi, guys. I'm Alicia from my work basket. I'm here with another Friday flip. For the sake of honesty, I'm actually recording several of these in a row because I'm having a lazy day. And on a lazy day, I like to sit and look at magazines. But today I've got something special for you because we're doing a twofer. I grabbed a stack of magazines to get started, and I noticed both of these are just a little bit on the thin side. So unless they're really amazing inside, I figured let's do two magazines today. So we have the March 1970, The Work Basket and Home Arts magazine. And we also have January 1977 for the Work Basket and Home Arts magazine. Now, both of these are not where I could freely share patterns. So, use that information. You can try and find a copy yourself if you see anything you want to make. Also, you can contact me. I do have duplicates of some issues, and I'm open to selling those for you to make specific items. So both of these came to me and joined my collection from Mrs. Donald Parker in Bossum, New York. And I have another one from her because I actually just recorded for another Friday flip a February 1965 issue from the same name. She changed address from Judge Road. She used to previously live on Maple Street. So they either renamed the road or she moved. But she subscribed to the Work Basket for a long time, it would seem. And I have found in my collection many women seemed to do that. I have issues from, I've had where I bought, it had a variety of more than 10 years and they were all to the same person. So, all right. The Blue Diamond crew neck slip-on. And an embroidery offer for the Old Irish Blessing. Oh, this is something I don't see very often. Most of these have color pages or black and white pages. You don't usually see the partial color like this. That's interesting. This is the same one that's shown in the front cover. So I guess they're showing more so the jacket here and more so the dress here. There usually is an ad like this. There's always a fashion ad with partial color, but I never really see a pattern with partial color like that. So besides telling you, hey, you should buy this pattern, it also talks to you about just general seams. And it just tells you the dress pattern. Like, you would have still had to buy that. The pattern is not really in the book. Mink oil. So many of these. Like, I've got a ton of these that say mink oil. So many ads for mink oil. Men's socks. Pleasure of sewing with wise scissors. They're still talking about different seams and hems from the dress. Animal hood jacket. I think that's oddly cute and oddly creepy, to be honest. Save foil pie pans and make fantastic owl plaques. Create your own jewelry. The rest of this is just instructions on this page. This is the elf cap and mittens. Orlon acrylic yarn. Oh, that's a neat stitch. The skater's set, scarf and cap. Can you see that? I hope on a bigger screen you can see it. On my camera, it just looks like a zigzag, but it's actually a row of red and white checks. And then the next row, the white is it looks almost like the letter M or a W. It's like a textured stitch. And on the hat, you can actually, the checkered rows, I think, are actually this W stitch too. So it looks like they're like checker pattern, but they're not. That's a really neat stitch. It is knit with size 6 and 8 knitting needles. I might have to try that stitch. I don't know what that stitch is, but it's really interesting looking to me. I should have saved some paper scraps to mark pages. Okay, the crochet beret. Actually, that's got a little punch of color too. I feel like this issue is making a liar out of me because I was like, oh, I never see this. And then, all right, the tote bag and crochet. There's always the fat girl's diets, a list of optional diets. Let's see. Oh, here we go. There's always one especially ridiculous sounding one. Famous rice with fruit diet. Reduces excess fluid, dehydration. Also has one of my personal favorites I discovered in the last issue I was looking at. The famous banana diet. I'm not sure which one is better. Rice and fruit or the banana diet. Crochet vest. Cross stitch pattern. What? The crochet vest cross stitch pattern. The cross stitch must be the name of the stitch. Child's loafer socks with soles. And they used to have the most heartbreaking. I mean, I feel like they're bad now, but the adopted child ads, they used to be downright bad. One ad. Somebody to love me. So sad. The blue diamond crew neck shown in color 1 second cover. So that was this one here. See wrinkles actually reduced with medically proven hormone application. I'm very confused by this random asterisk. Oh, okay. I found what it's referencing to as dry skin wrinkles diminish in only 10 to 12 days. Sometimes you'll see in these ads, there'll be like a random asterisk as it's a random design and it like doesn't point to anything. Oh, excuse me. I'm sorry about that. Giant fringed petunias. All right, here's Women Who Make Sense. Pillow slips. They decorate them with sleep prayers, head scarves, eggshell decor made from eggshells and artificial flowers. They do tiny little decorations and sell them. Desk sets with burlap, thread holders, pan holders, dolls for big profit. You can even pull tacks without breaking a fingernail. New kind of nail toughener. Takes only 3 days. Easter dish parades. You got the classic springtime leg of lamb. Something called shrimp Newburg, which is shrimp, butter, cream, egg yolks, salt, and pepper. It's cooked in a double boiler, so I guess it's kind of like a shrimp in almost like a hollandaise, but like not really. Ham yam medley. Sauces for ham glazes. Fundraisers. Always the fundraisers. Win up to $3,000 monthly working puzzles. Or an award. It might be fragile. A major award. Eggplant stuffed with shrimp is very delectable. I'll tell you one thing. Food photography has come a really long way. Lamb capers. Beautifully decorated ham loaf. This is the type of thing I'd love to try. It's ham and pineapple. You know, cooked ham, croutons. It's essentially a meatloaf, but made with ground ham. I would actually love to try that. My husband and son are both convinced that they do not eat ham. They do regularly eat ham. I mean, like, but they're both convinced they don't. So I can't really just feed them ham loaf. I'll be like, is there ham in this? And I'll be like, yeah, but you ate ham last week. I hope they're not watching this. But anyway, my husband and son are both convinced they don't eat ham. So I can't make that recipe unless I am prepared to eat a lot of ham. So this one is missing its embroidery patterns. There's always a copy of embroidery patterns in here, the iron-on kind, with ideas on how to use them. Ooh, my nose is like runny since I sneezed. Nothing super amazing on these. I mean, cheap. 15 big packets of seeds for $1. I mean, that's impressive. Miracle tomato yields 2 bushels to a vine. The Burgess climbing triple crop. Climbing strawberries. Oh, I've got a funny story about this. Okay, so pet seahorses for $2.75. So a funny side note on this is that for many, many years, I had heard, like, my mom and my aunts say that my grandmother used to race seahorses. And I always thought that was so wild. I was like, how do you race seahorses? How do you race them? R-A-C-E. I thought she raced seahorses. Finally, I mean, well into my adult life, I think it may have been when we were cleaning out her house, there were some of she literally had like dried seahorses occasionally in like a knickknack shelf. And it was like, oh, from when she raised seahorses. So all of my life, I thought my grandmother had done this crazy thing and raced seahorses, only to come to find out that she had raised them. So essentially, when you would order one of these ads, they had people, I guess, at different locations who they'd send them, hey, you need to send, and she would, I guess, send them to the address. So when you ordered them, the company sent the notification to somebody else, and that person, and that was part of how they guaranteed live delivery. But yes, so my grandmother raised seahorses, and it blew my mind when I finally heard that. I was like, that makes so much more sense. But it was very fun for all those years, and even to this day, to picture someone racing seahorses and having like a tank of seahorses. And like, yeah. So anyway, and here's the glitter plaques. Anybody who does vintage knows about those melty guys. Itch, itch, itch. I was nearly crazy. Hobbies. 950 picture pet hobby book. Everything, you name it. Oh, colorful poultry book from Stromberg's. Stromberg's is still a thing, isn't it? That sells like chickens and stuff. I was very interested, so that one's up here. Sometimes there's some very interesting categories in these. I'm not sure how many of these you can read. The text is pretty small, but I guess it depends on what size screen you're on. So I'm just trying to give you a chance to enjoy it. I guess if you're on a phone, it probably is going to look like a blurry blob. But, alright, block, pillow, and rug. So this is what I was saying. There are regularly ads like this with the partial color. Oh, everybody who does retro knows these. The ballpoint paints. I actually have tons of these paints. I have probably a drawer full. I buy them every time I find them cheap at thrift stores and stuff. And usually they still work if you replace the tip. But replacing the tips has gotten really expensive to me for the quantity that I have. So I've heard you can take the tips off and soak them in like paint thinner, and I keep meaning to do that. This is one of those weird crafts that I feel like could totally take off if there was like an updated and affordable way of doing it. Like some companies do still sell these, but they tend to have like really outdated patterns and style tactics. It's like the same things that you could order from them in catalogs and magazines like this is exactly what's still on their website today. And that's just not how you do something. Competitive. Competitive? That's not really the right word. Modern. I want every reader of this paper to have my big red early Anna tomato. This is also back when dolls were regularly in the catalogs, magazines. Doll making and miniatures were really coming into fashion. The early 70s seemed to have more of the dolls, and then into the 80s, it's like people went smaller. And the late 70s and 80s, miniatures really popped up. Also, always an accordion. I don't know what it was. There's always an ad for an accordion in like almost all the work baskets that I have. A tatted handkerchief edge. A groovy gremlin. Just made from a triangle. I don't know exactly what makes it a gremlin. I guess just the name. Bird pictures in cruel embroidery. Cruel. I always feel like I'm not saying that right. Cruel. I think it's one of those things you usually only say in your head, and then you say it out loud, and you're like, I don't know, maybe that's right. Italian bomb for dry, rough hands. That's another one. I've tried to track that down before, and you just can't. I couldn't find anything labeled Italian bomb. Or sewing patterns. This is, I mean, people act like gadgets are new, but let me see if I can angle this differently. Lattice top pie. I mean, like, this is the, I feel like the 60s and 70s were like time of gadgetry. The back ad is almost always flowers or the like craft club. All right, so again, that was the March 1970. I had a little bit more to point out than I thought. We're at about 16 minutes. But I'm going to go ahead and do the January 1977 because I promised you I would. So we'll have two issues in this one. I'm trying to make sure you can see this here. Sometimes with the camera, I have a small screen, and to tell what you see gets a little bit tricky. So this is another work basket for January 1977. AARP. The women's wrap sweater from the front cover. This is the cable pullover and knit that we'll get to, I'm sure. Yep, so that was next. Indoor winter strawberries as big as peaches. So it says actual size. I mean, her fingers are actual size. I mean, that's a good 2 inches or so. That's about a 2-inch strawberry. And, you know, I feel like by today's standards, that's not huge. You get 2-inch strawberries fairly often. I mean, that'd still be a pretty big strawberry. But I feel like they've gotten bigger as, you know. But, yeah, so indoor giant winter strawberries. I'm very curious about that. You can comment if you know this for sure. But I feel like strawberries are one of those that need to be pollinated. So I'm very curious how they would do indoors. A striped bulky sweater. Tatted doily. 10 towels for $1.95. Unwoven cotton and rayon. Unwoven. That's very interesting. I'm trying to figure out what unwoven cotton would be like. Unwoven fabric today is the kind like you'll find in a cheap, reusable grocery bag. That's called non-woven fabric. So, crochet vest. So, the idea of a towel made from unwoven sounds very interesting. That's a twine back sign twine. I know I'm saying that wrong. That word there, whatever that word there is, that's what I'm saying. Twine? Sign? Twine? I'm not sure. Oh, these are some of the best. No wonder you're constipated. It goes into roughage in your diet. An owl eyeglass case. Embroidery floss. Sew and save hints, tips, patterns. I don't actually usually read this. I feel like a lot of times it's the same type of tips. For the very dressy but not formal social affair, the combination of an informal fabric with a formal one is great. A poncho and skirt or pants of dark wool flannel with a matching color satin blouse does the trick. So they're just kind of little, I feel like those are the type of tips you kind of need to read when you need them and not like to randomly remember. At least, I mean, for me. So Women Who Make Sense is a spice board where they lay spices and alphabet noodles and like decoupage over them with lacquer. Cookbook themed bookends with bricks. Oatmeal bread, orange bread. Are you afraid you're going deaf? If you are afraid you're going deaf, please just go get your ears checked. There's no shame in it. It happens. Bran rice pilaf. You can see how we're getting into that like whole grains fad. I mean, I guess it's still a thing, but you kind of go from some of the processed foods that people were used to after World War II and back into some of those whole grains and things. Recipe for your own graham crackers. The All-America Award Roses. That's usually a fun one to read. I mean, it's nothing amazing about it. It just tells you, like, the best roses of the year. And they usually do that once a year in these magazines. Sometimes I like to pull out, like, a phone or a website. And when I see where they do the yearly roses, I'll look up and see if you can still find those roses. And see, like, color photos of them. How to grow an avocado from a seed. A very 70s thing to talk about. 1977 after all, so. You did see some of the avocado stuff in the earlier 70s and the 60s, but a lot of times the magazines would call it other things. Not that they wouldn't call it avocado, and I can't think of what they would like call it, but the pit especially that you were growing it from, I've seen all kinds of things that they called it. That's a very 1977 kind of poncho. The crazy thing is, I think I have this exact yarn, like, stashed away. Just a bit of it. I don't have, like, a ton. Easy to swallow pill. Brings effective relief from constipation. I think all that bran would do that, don't you? Baby bonnet. Mouse bookmark. Homemade racket cover, heading into the tennis racket days. Earthworms. There's a fun whole category. Multiple ads in classical advertising for earthworms. I hope that's not blurry. On my screen it's kind of blurry, but I can't tell what you see. The pegged counter. I actually have one of these. I have one of those somewhere. It's just like a little, you poke your thing in to track rows and things like that. Be sure with EverSafe. This one always, like, I mean, I would still totally do this. If I saw one of these at the thrift store, I'd snag it and, like, save our soap. And you can see we're heading into the doll houses. Oh, every time I do one of these, it's like it makes a liar out of me. These are, the back one is usually a flower or a plant ad, or like the craft, I can't think of the name of it. There was like a craft guild craft kits that you'd get in the mail. And as soon as I said that, here we are with something else. So that is today's Flip It Friday, March 1970 and January 1977. I can't guarantee these exact issues are available, but there is a website called Antique Pattern Library, and they have many of the Workbasket magazines scanned in. So if you see something that you want to make, you can check there to potentially get the pattern for free. You can also track down Workbasket, I mean, all kinds of places, thrift stores, antique stores, eBay. Or if you see something specific, you can contact me. I can tell you right now, my collection is not in order right now, but I do have duplicates of many of these, and I'm willing to sell those duplicates. So right now, I'm not really set up to do that, but I would do my best to find if you need a specific issue. So thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this Friday flip. If you see anything that makes you laugh or that brings back a memory, let me know. I'd love to hear if your grandma made that sweater, or if your grandma always made that recipe, like anything. If you made that recipe, if you made that sweater, I mean, these aren't all that old. Talk to me about what you saw in these issues that brought something back to you, or that you want to try. Just chat with me in the comments. Thank you for watching. Feel free to like and subscribe. And if not, I hope you at least enjoyed the flip. Have a great day.